it was just in me that the path that I was going to take wasn't going to be the road that was less traveled. And for whatever reason, when football or NFL didn't work out for me, I wanted to be the example of, well, you still can go pro in life. A lot of that was instilled in me again, the way I grew up. Education was of importance. We got took off teams a few times growing up because our grades wasn't where they're supposed to be. And so the reality of one freak play or things not working out as they should, that contingency plan of getting a real degree, I didn't say real, but a degree of substance that can really take you far in life was something that was important to me, and it turned out to help. So all in all, each step I've taken, I think you also asked the question of how it was to run for office as a black man.
Yes, sir.
I felt myself to be equipped to take on those challenges and want to, trailblaze in my own way, much like the folks came before us who had ownership to, our reality. Mm. And I wanted to do my path, and I always took the path of most resistance because we got to break that resistance so we can loosen up for the people come after us. So, interestingly enough, I told my mom when I called her, she was first once I decided I was going to run for office, I called her. Mm. And the reality of it, and this is not hyperbole and it's not me exaggerating, it's the reality of it. The reality of it was that, Mom, I'm going to run for office, and I need you to be okay with the possibility of me running for office, meaning that my life may be taken.
Oh, wow.
That's
powerful.
Went into looking at running for office. Now, again, somebody will say, well, Mo, that's ridiculous, but it's not. It's the reality of it. When you stand on principle, when you stand to move things and shake up the establishment, history teaches us as black men, you are a target.
Yeah.
And so, that was a reality that I was good with, and I had to make sure my mom was good with it. And she said, baby, I ain't worried about that, we covered.
Okay.
And so we went. I was good with it.
Yes.
Because, when you believe in something, the work that we have in front of us, particularly as a black community, when you really believe in something, like, you will give it all, because that's the point. Like, what else are we here for if it ain't for advancement?
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying? So definitely, I wouldn't say I was scared at all, but it's a reality too that's the way I had to look at it through those lenses.
Exactly.
And like you mentioned, in the beginning of our conversation, we came from a very small town. So what was your feedback from that small town? Like, were you supported from the small town? Did you get a lot of the hate from the small town?
Man, Belton, Anderson, home was amazing. I mean, we decided to launch my campaign through a video, and that video was based out of Belton, South Carolina. That's where it started off. It means everything to me, and I'm too emotional. When you go through the process of making a decision that you're going to run for office, your name is literally on the ballot.
Yes.
You are representing yourself and the name that is with you in the place that you come from. Mm-hmm. And all those things, for me, made me reflect on who I am and where I come from. And the essence of who my ethos is, Belton, South Carolina, Belton, Anderson, South Carolina, and I'm proud of that. When I ran, I felt that energy from home. Unfortunately, my aunt was going through stage 4 cancer at the time, and so I was actually home before I made a decision pretty often. And just being around my people and remembering where I came from, it really gave me that extra energy to go. And then once I announced, I can't tell you how many people reached out to me, tell me how proud they were. I think the biggest thing was two things, actually. I had one white Republican whose son played with me on JV. Excuse me, not JV, but on rec league. He reached out to me and he was like, Mo, out of all the stuff that's getting said out here, like all this racism stuff, this is not what it's about. I'm as guilty as anyone that's being a Republican, but we got to get through this, and I just appreciate what you're doing.
Oh, wow.
That touched me. That touched me a lot. And then the other one...
It touched me just hearing it.
Yeah, it says a lot about your character.
Yeah.
And then the other ones was multiple. It's really a lot of my close black friends and extended black friends, particularly the males, who was telling me that they was inspired, they was going to vote for me, even though I wasn't in that district. But they was inspired to vote, and they got introduced to the process through my example. And just to hear, friend after friend after friend to tell me how proud they was and how they gonna do it now, and even grown men, come and tell me that this is their first time voting because it's the first time they felt like somebody actually represented them.
Wow.
Was on the ballot. So it was amazing, man. Like I said, it was no losses, it was just lessons learned. So the reception that I got from home and just people around me was amazing, man. Very humble.
Just piggybacking off of what you were just saying, why do you feel such a disconnect, or why do you think like there's such a disconnect between the black community and politics? Why do you feel like we just aren't paying attention? Because to me personally, I feel like that's one of our biggest like drawbacks. Like we don't seem to realize how important politics is. Not so much politicians, but politics in general. They shape our everyday life.
Right. I think that's a very complicated question, because on one side you have a history of a country that's been divided when it comes to the view of a black person. Mm-hmm. Yeah. One side of this country, the country that I believe in with all of me, that I'm proud of, that helped rear me into the man that I am today, and I still believe that's who we're going to be moving forward if we do the work and ensure that it is the one that says slavery isn't right, that segregation isn't right, that we're going to give the opportunity to give a black man to lead this country within 200 years of being in shackles. Like, you got that side of the country. And then you got the other side of the country who have always seen us as less, being to be superior. And when dealing in politics, there's fear and hope is your two main things that you're going to find in politics when folks are running. Splinter that off, go in whatever direction you want to go, you're going to find racism, prejudice, and bigots coming real close to those two things, particularly on the fear side. I believe the vast majority of black folks, I don't say the vast majority, but the majority, has successfully been convinced of that it doesn't matter, that government, whether you vote or not, it's just going to work. It's almost like the government is a set entity that doesn't move or reflects. It's just that. And so, again, that was intentional in some ways, and in other ways, it has just been received that way because of, the lack of progression in the black community. I take this position on where black folks need to be when it comes to politics is that we got to have more of us running. We got to have more coordination within the black community, particularly with black men. I think women have done an amazing job of educating themselves. Per capita, they're the most educated group in the country.
Which showed in Alabama, Mississippi, and Georgia these last couple of years. Women, I say, which showed in Alabama, Mississippi, and Georgia these last few years, black women got out and they voted and made changes in those states.
Absolutely. They definitely did. And, they've been the backbone of this country. That being said, black men, when we do progress, when we do come together, it's a different type of muscle. We've seen that over time, and there's a reason why they try to keep the black men separate. Crab in a bucket mentality, that slave mentality. I can't share because if I give you a piece of my pie, then you're going to take away from my pie instead of in the pie. And we got to deal with that. We got to deal with that as a people and look at all the information, the resources that's readily available to anyone who seeks it and take ownership in it.
Yes.
The more ownership that we take in it, the more that we evolve in the process, the more that we take these amazing skill sets, these amazing men who've been out here did great work and collaborate, share resources, share thoughts, push each other, hold each other accountable. That's where the change really going to happen. That's where the politics start to move. And that's what we've been lacking versus other times in our history.
With that being said, on the flip side of that, how do you feel politicians can do a better job with reaching out to our community?
It's tough because you go through all these different examples, and I know even with my efforts, I try my best to reach out to the many people I can. Okay. But the reality is going to come from the grassroots efforts that you've seen, like in Georgia's and the battleground states where we was picking up the Democrats that's purple. There was if you're looking to build a pipeline of individuals that's going to represent your interests, you got to know who those leaders are. Identify those leaders throughout our community, whether that's pastors, school board members, councilmen, or your rec league coach, whomever they are. These leaders are evident within our community. What we don't do well is communicate with those leaders well enough, a plan and a vision that executes more than 2, 4, 6, 8, 10 years. We see you have a path with your leadership ability to galvanize, to be able to do X, Y, and Z, whether that's serving on city council, whether that's serving on the county council, school board, the state house, state senate, the U.S., whatever. Having the right people to be able to identify those individuals and having a plan for them to push forward so that those individuals who already have what people know who they are, can trust them, they know what they've done. When they speak, they're going to listen more. So we got to do a better job of getting these leaders identified and then educated so that they can be the megaphones to touch the people who they ultimately will end up representing.
Right, because it's like I tend to fall in sometimes with older people, and I vote, but it's like my faith in that vote really isn't there, because it's like even if this person is elected, like I've seen it in the past where a difference really isn't made for our people. How would you address that? Because it's like, okay, we went out there, we voted, we did, what you told us to do. But 4 years, 8 years later, we're still in the same place as a community.
Biden! Excuse me, I had a call.
Right. Well, change don't come overnight. And going back to the planning and coordination and understanding the process that is government. Every 2 years there is an election. Well, literally every year there is an election. There's an election going on every year in some type of form. But every 2 years, your state representatives, your councilmen on the local level, your federal representatives, someone is up for their seat. And local, state, national. Someone's up for their seat. Someone is. And so, you have to be aware of it. That's on you as a citizen. That is your civic responsibility to be able to know who is representing you. And I put it like this. If somebody owes you money, you're going to make sure that person gets you that money. that's basically what the government is. It takes the money that we have and it redistributes it to the issue of